Hello, and welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast with Heather and John, where we help you with your professional and personal growth, helping you say yes to all the scary stuff. Good morning, Heather. How are you doing?
I am doing amazing, John. It is Friday, and that means it's also Friday, the day that we celebrate our successes for the week, talk about the positive impacts, and really reset our mindset to think about all of the things that we are doing to make this world a better place. So, for those of you listening with us, you know that we love to celebrate your successes with us. Put them in the comments. But, John, let's start with you. What
Yeah.
is coming up for you this week?
Yeah. Well, listen, celebration wise, I got to do a lot of charitable things this week. I got to do a $1 million smile bear delivery last week, which is a program I know you're familiar with, which was fantastic. Yesterday, I got to spend the morning with the uh, Feed Scarborough Food Bank.
Okay.
We got to work with a team and we got to prepare meals. I think we prepared just over 150 meals for individuals that need them. So yeah, it was a week of giving back, a week of just, you know, seeing smiles on faces you typically wouldn't see. And when we delivered the bear on Saturday, man, so we delivered a bear to a child with autism and with Down syndrome. The smile on his face, the hug was just unbelievable. It was
Aww.
just so priceless, right? I know I know you know what I'm talking about because you've been there and you've done it. But yeah, for all of those of you that want to participate next year, we can definitely share some details on that. But what an experience, right? It was just so good. So good. What about you, Heather? What are you celebrating?
This week has been about uh holiday cheer, getting together with friends, connecting with people, singing some crazy carols, and it's just been really, really fantastic to have community come together, and that's the season, right? The season
Yeah.
is of celebration and coming together, and I I I really love just having some fun old giggles with people. You don't realize just how important that is to just laugh and sing and do all those fun things. So it's been one of those weeks, and as which is important because there's also a lot of stress that comes with this time of year for
Mhm.
people. So I think I'm celebrating getting through the week and making a positive impact with lots of people.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. There's something special around this time of year where we get to create even more impact, right? Like our goal and our vision, our mission is to impact 1 million people every year. What's been interesting since we've started on this mission, been finding new and interesting ways to create more impact and making impact with people I didn't even think I could make impact with. So it's been pretty amazing so far. Wow.
It's absolutely. And as the year wind down, there's not only just a reflection that we do weekly, but there's a reflection of the whole year.
Mm,
And for anyone out there listening, this is a good time. You're going to have some time off to sit down and journal. What are all the things that you learned this year? What are the things that you celebrated this year? What were the challenges that you overcame? And then how do you give yourself recognition for those things? And this is the best time of year to do that self reflection. And I'll tell you, every time I do this, John, it gives me strength to know that I grew, that I learned,
mm.
and that I persisted and I was resilient. And sometimes you don't feel like that at the moment, but when you self reflect afterwards, you're like, wow, those were some crazy moments that I got through. So that is going to be my to do or my action item over the next week or so.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm with you. It's actually funny enough that you said it. It's part of the I forgot one more celebration, delivering the goal setting workshop on Tuesday.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, one of the questions that I incorporated was exactly that. Where did you succeed this year? What were the challenges that you overcame? What are you excited about stepping into in 2025? And I know we have the activity of creating the word for the year. So I still got to
Mm.
go get my mug. My Believe mug gets taken from me all the time. So I don't know where that is right now. But I got creative and I got a marker And I wrote my word, my
I
mill.
love it.
Homemade,
You know,
custom.
that's the thing. You don't have to be all fancy dancy with things, but it's funny since we've been using that word or just playing with it, it's been showing up for me all over the place.
Wow. Okay.
Speakers speak, and their final statement is be bold. It's showing up for a couple moments that I had to make decisions, and I was like, oh, if I was bold, what would I do? And I changed the decision. And so
Wow.
it's been showing up, and I'm like, is it my word? Is it my word? And I'm not committing yet, but it feels like it's finding its way. And that's the beauty of and the magic of finding a word to anchor your beliefs, your behaviors, and your thought process, because
Mm.
it has already helped me make new decisions.
Yeah. I
Incredible.
think, it's funny. So yesterday while we were doing these meal preps, we went through the exercise of getting everybody in the room to come up with their word, which was so amazing. And and there was a process to it. And if anybody who's interested and needs some support, reach out to me. But we went through a process because they were trying to narrow down what they were trying to focus on for next year, right? And we talked about the different situations. This is where coaching comes, right? And
Mm,
the word they ended up coming up with was space, right? Like they just
space.
needed space for what they needed and what they really wanted to do with their lives. I'm like, oh, well, it's
Mm,
such a great word. The focus for them going into 2025 for this individual was, doing more of the things I want to do, right? Because situations change. Things are 2025 is going to be different in the academic system, so that we know. And it's giving space for people to reconsider how they're going to do things. So this
mm.
individual, the word came up with was space, which was beautiful, and another lady was consistency, and another one was clarity, and another one was, I don't know if it's one word, but maybe if you put a hyphen in between, was no excuses. So so many great things in there to kind of live off of. And you're right, it kind of sets the guiding light. It's that beacon that's going to lead you into that next year, into 2025. And it's like, well, what do I really want this to be? Right.
Yes. You know, John, I saw a video the other day, and it reminded me why, because sometimes when we talk about what's your word, people are like, I can't choose a word, that's too overwhelming. Like one
Mm.
word that I'm committed to. And the video highlighted a sales technique that a shoe salesman used to use. And what the technique was, is he would bring two pairs of shoes for
Mm.
someone to try on. And if they asked for another pair, he would say, which one am I taking away? And that there's always just two in front of you. And what he found was if he brought the third pair of shoes out, sales went down, the purchase power went down because now it was overwhelming. But if he always took one away, then the decision is being made for you. And then there's a choice between A or B pair of shoes. And I
Mm.
thought, wow, that is just so fantastic and an insight into human behavior. And that is, the process of elimination to get people to make a decision is a really good thing. So, we've tried on the word bold. I know I feel like you're committed now. I might steal your same word, which keeps us consistent. But it's, bold and one other choice, not this long list of words that are showing up. And the two words that are sitting with me right now is, do I keep believe, which was my word for last year? Has
Mhm.
it done everything it needs to do to serve me? Or do I move on to bold? And so I'm trying those two on, but this process of elimination is so incredible for our life when we feel indecisive at times.
Yeah, no, listen, I love it. And you know what? That's the thing. You still got time, right? And actually, the truth is, you have time all next year too. So you don't have to commit. Well, ideally, if you commit, it's the better way to do it. But what I typically tell people when they're going through this exercise is, usually the first word that pops into your head is the word that you're going to stick with,
Correct.
right?
Exactly.
Because it's the one thing, and this is going to sound a little different, but it's the one thing your soul knows it needs, right?
Mm.
And as it comes up, and as I was doing this exercise with walking to the car with two other people, and I'm like, "What's your word for the year?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" So I explained it really quick. I don't want them to think I'm like out there and just a little bit crazy. And if they do, that's okay. So we take them through the exercise. They're like, the first word that popped into my head was persistence. I'm like, that's a great word,
Ooh.
right? And the other one's like, I'm not sure. There's just so many words and it sounds like confusion. Goes, well, I don't think that's my word. I'm like, I don't think it is either, but there's something there, right?
There's
So,
something there, and that, when that shows up for you, that's probably showing up in your life, and
mhm.
simplification is probably the next step that you wanna explore for yourself, and, I'm using all kinds of words that could be your word of the year: simplification, consistency, exploration, adventure, there are so many words to choose from, but John, I just wanna go back, you said you don't have to commit, and I have a different invitation, which I think is
Sure.
what you were saying, is just commit. And then you can change it if you want, because that's the
Yes.
beauty of things. But the commitment is the key to try it on. And so I'm always committed, you're always committed to having a word of
Mhm.
the year. And we're going, if we wanted to change it because it wasn't working for us, we can do that anytime. That's the beauty of choice.
Yes, it is. And what's beautiful is next week our we're having a Christmas Eve breakfast with the kids and friends and family, and I'm going to take them through the exercise, and we're going to do a review of the words that they set for themselves this year. So the kids with boyfriends and girlfriends, anybody who shows up at my table, you're going to get the question, right? Whether or not you like it, you're going to be part of the experience, right? That's what's going to bring you into the group. And then I write down the words and make sure that we just keep track of it throughout the year. So, when we do our dinner, I'm going to ask you, so how did that word show up for you in your life, right?
Mm.
So we're going to do that. We're going to close off 2024 with a review of the word. And then we're going to okay, now what's your new word for 2025? And you know what? It creates some really great discussion. The
Mm.
one thing, especially if you're sitting down and you're eating for a long time, right? You want to break it up with some conversation. Ask people, got to go through the exercise. Do it with your family, do it with your friends when you're sitting down. If there was one word that could represent 2025 for you, what would that be? And then
Yeah.
explain how that word is that guiding beacon for you. It's a beautiful little exercise. I know it seems so simple, but it's one that can provide you so much clarity and guidance going into the next year.
And our brains love to have that beacon of light, or that
Mhm.
you are here kind of pinpoint on a map, and it will go and search it out and be like, oh, it will find a way to infuse that into your decision making, into your thought process, and you'll start to see it show up all the time. It's not by accident that I'm seeing speakers talk about being bold. That's just maybe my awareness is heightened, but it's there always for us to unravel. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know Nicole is with us this morning. So, Nicole, do you have your word for 2025 yet? And if you do, I'd love to have you share it with us. And good morning, by the way. Welcome. But yeah, no, it ties back to what you talked about. I saw the same video, funny enough, this week. It was Simon Sinek who was talking to, um, I forget the other gentleman's name. I've met him. Okay, doesn't matter. He runs the School of Greatness. I know that's the other person he was talking to. So Simon Sinek was sharing the story. So just like the shoes, your word is what gives
mm,
you clarity, right?
absolutely.
So, I love how, when you take away and strip away all the options, there's only one option left. And it's usually the option that you were going to go with anyways. It's kind of like writing an exam for students, right? The first answer you think is right is usually the right
It's
answer.
usually the right one.
And statistically, it typically is. So it's kind of interesting that, you talked about the shoe example, but it's so true. Sometimes you got to look at 2024 and look at, what are some of the things that you want to take away? What are some of the things that are no longer serving you powerfully,
Exactly. Now,
and take those things away. Yeah.
if you're listening, and we'd love to hear what your word is. We would love to share, because people might not be thinking, what is my word? But they might be able to borrow your word. So if you are listening, put it in the comments. We'd love to hear what
Mhm.
those words are. Now, John, I want to talk about something else, because this is, although we talk about this being a festive and happy time, it can also be a really stressful time. And stress, we hear these like stress kills, don't have so much stress in your life. But I actually saw a TED talk the other day, and it was the opposite. Actually, stress can make you healthier. And
Mm.
I flipped it to you as well, so we could both watch it. And I wanted to know what your thoughts are on stress can make you healthier.
Yes. Well, stress. So It's funny you say that. Stress is something that is there to tell you that you're on the right path. Actually, stress, it's interesting. People are always saying, "Oh, I'm really stressed out," and I'm like, "Great. What are you learning from that? Right? Like,
Mm.
what are you learning that you either want to do or don't want to do? Right? So stress can be, it can be a guide in terms of telling you whether or not you're on the right path. If you're not getting stressed about the things that you're doing, then maybe those things are just a little bit too easy for you now, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like, when I'm exercising or when I'm, doing things, I've been incorporating some stretching and mobility work into my routine because it's uncomfortable for me, right? And it creates, just in my head, stress, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. I'm going to be so sore afterwards, but it's a good stress, right? Because it's the
Mm.
stress that I know that's going to help me, in my training, in my recovery, and everything that I'm doing, preparing for, 2025. And it's the way you see the stress. And what I liked about what you talked about in the video was, it's how you perceive the stress that really makes the
Yes.
stress good or bad, right? And you can perceive stress as something really bad, or you can perceive it as a way of growth or a way of not doing something or a way of doing something better. Like, the stress is good. The stress is telling you that you're stepping out of a comfort zone that you're normally in.
I do a one of my speaking engagements. I ask the audience how many people love roller coasters, and people put up their hand. And I ask how many people hate roller coasters, and it's usually about a 50-50 split in every room that I'm in. And what I acknowledge is, when you're feeling fear, where does it show up? And it's usually in
Mhm.
your belly, and it's in the form of butterflies. But I also ask the question, where does excitement show up? And it's usually in the belly, and it's usually in the form of butterflies. And the distinction there is the meaning you've put on it. Do I feel fear or do I
Mhm.
feel excitement? But your body's response to it is exactly the same. And that's important because when we're feeling stress and we say to ourselves, oh, this is stressful, this is hurtful, this is not good, then we retreat and we don't take action. But when we, see stress as something positive, oh, I'm growing, oh, I'm building muscle, oh, I'm getting stronger. And all the stress mechanisms is taking in deeper breaths, our heart starts pounding. And some people think, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to die. Or, wow, I'm getting stronger by the minute. And so this is how we create the biology of courage. And I thought that was just such a simple
Mhm.
concept. But also, here's the key is that when we connect with people that are like minded and through a moment of stress, this is how we create resilience. I thought, wow, that is
Mhm.
such a powerful moment for teams that are going through a really stressful moment. And the language matters. When I have a really rough day, most people would say, oh, I feel tired, I feel exhausted, oh man. And I have replaced those words. And sometimes I have to coach myself, but I say, oh, I feel accomplished today.
Mhm.
Changes everything.
Yeah.
Changes everything.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And listen, it's interesting because I find that sometimes individuals wear stress as a badge of honor. I'm feeling stressed. I got so
Oh,
much. I know, I know, I know. Well,
yes.
but so, you know, how you perceive it is actually how it's going to impact you. And what she found, and there was just a short clip, and maybe we'll share it on our profiles, Heather. But they talked about people who perceive stress as a bad thing had a higher likelihood of death,
Yeah. Like, I think
right?
it was like 43%.
Yeah,
So if you want to
43%.
live
That's
longer, think about your mindset and the stress in your life and perceive it as something positive. And for anybody listening out there, the TED Talk is Kelly McGould, How to Make Stress Your Friend. So you can just Google that for sure.
yeah.
John, we are at time. So we are
No, I
at
can't
that
believe we're
moment.
already there.
And the call to action for all of you is sit down, write out words that you feel could influence your year in the most impactful way. And then just circle two and try each one on for the next 7 days. And I can tell you by the end of that 7 days, you're going to have your word for the year. And then it's going to be your guiding post for all kinds of amazing things that are going to show up in your life. So that is your call to action. Of course, that, and make sure you're connecting with friends and family at the highest level you possibly can. People need those video messages. People need that connection.
Mm.
Believe me, this is the time to reach out.
Yeah, no, I love that, Heather. Great call to action. And the next time we all get together, I want to see your word on our screen. So please, 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 please write it down. I'm keeping track of people's words. So this way we know how to continue the conversation going into 2025. Well, thank you for joining us on the Say Yes Movement podcast. Just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to y'all soon.